Okay, I think it started. Well, I hope it started. And I'll share the screen. Yes, start. Or maybe turn off the video, so make it less. Can you see our screen now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So first about REST API. Do you know REST API? Do you need to explain it?
Definitely.
Maybe just go over very quickly.
So I think okay, let's begin with why we need to do REST API. So our goal is to, from the Chrome extension, we want to say save our data, save the section, the SenseMap section to some database. And yeah, so we need some kind of communication to tell the database to save the information we want. And we can do that by, say, sending an AJAX request to some web server, and we together with the data, and then they will save the information to the database. And REST API is allow you to do that. So you can see, for example, here the text that I'm highlighting. So REST API allow you to do some database operation, like create, read, update, and delete, which is exactly what we need. For example, when the user perform an action and then a note appear, so we want to save that information. We want to create that information, or if you want to reload the whole section, that will be the read operation. So that's why we need to use the REST API. And to actually use the REST API as a developer, have you ever used REST API before?
Yeah, quite a bit.
Okay, that's good. Then I don't need to explain.
Like
Not really on my end, but it doesn't seem that complicated.
Yeah, so basically you send an AJAX request and then you receive the information from the web server, which the one that handle the REST API. Just like when you want to use Twitter API, you can search for.
Do you have example here, or maybe find a simple example?
Let me see. I think here down here they have the way to test REST API. Maybe with the Postman.
You can search.
Okay, testing the Postman.
But for us to receive and send HTTP requests, that wouldn't we need to have a server? Because SenseMap currently runs mostly just on the client.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, exactly. We need a server later on.
Okay.
I think this one is the REST API from Twitter. So you can search for tweets that containing some keyword, and then I think that this is the URL. You just have a request to this URL with some parameter, and it will return you. So let me scroll down to see some example here. For example, here, this is the example that a GET request from the REST API. So this is the URL they provide, and this is the parameter you need to provide where you say that I want to search for this keyword, free band names with some other parameters, and then you will get the response, usually in a JSON format, a JavaScript object. Okay, and then you can get, or you can post. Get usually, for example, as I said before, you want to load the whole section, then you get something. If you want to save something, you do the post request. If you want to update something, you do the put request. And when you want to delete something, of course, you do the delete request. That's how we communicate with the database. we use the REST API to communicate with database. So of course, we need to implement the REST API and then using some server architecture. And then I decided to use Node.js. So in the Node.js, you will connect to the database, and depending on different types of they call endpoint, different types of requests like get or put or post, we need to implement different operation to the database. Okay, so that is the overview.
Does that make sense? Or
So we basically use REST to make these requests, and on the server we have to give instructions what they do with that kind of request.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. So basically, from the SenseMap client point of view, it's not even aware there is a database behind. So the interface is the API. So all it does is just send these requests, and these will be translated into database operations in the backend.
All right.
Yeah. So if you can see the text, so for example, I will assume that our database, our REST API will be something like big data machine .SenseMap. For example, this is the URL. So each REST API will go to together with REST API with the URL, and then I will say something. Let me. For example, if I want to save an action, I can action, and then I can put some the information about the action, like the name of the action or the time or whatever here. It's just a JSON object, and then we build the REST API that read this object and then put into the database. That's how we instruct the database to save information. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, just giving you a few links actually. This is just like for a one client I was working. So over here, I mean, ready, you can just click them. It will be like quick examples of how you can actually, so it's just an event listing API, you can say, that we were developing based on REST actually. So, I mean, it's quite simple. It won't be that hard for you. They just return like access, you can say this API just access the database, and in whatever basically is our request, they return. So it's like fetch actually. So create, update, delete.
Okay.
That's how it works. It's simple.
Yeah. No, I understand it. It doesn't look hard. It's just
It was heard as a concept, I think. Create, update, read, and delete. Is that the right concept?
You typed in something?
prod, yeah. It actually says it in an article as well if you scroll on a little.
Yep.
But yeah, no, it's not the matter of complexity. It's just a matter of setting it properly up, because we just need the connection on the SenseMap application and what the user sees. And on the server, we have to set it up properly. But if you already guys have a REST API for with that link already set up,
Twitter,
then it should be fine. Yeah.
No, so the Twitter example is already set up connecting to the Twitter database.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to set up our own ones similar to
that's
that for our own MongoDB database.
Okay.
So when we want to actually use it, we need a database running in the server. We need a Node.js server running that can serve for the REST API. And then in the client, when you want to save, you just file a REST request to that server, and then it will handle. You don't need to care about what database the server will use.
No, I wasn't saying like what kind of database or something like that, because it's clear that we're using MongoDB. I was just making sure that that's what we have to do.
Yeah. Okay. So now if you understand what REST API is and why we need to do that, then we can move on. So
Sure.
in this tutorial,
Sorry, was that a question or?
No.
Okay. No, I have to select here.
yeah. Okay. Universal. So
Why make it so big?
you can say the screen is it will be very small.
No, they're seeing full screen there.
Yeah, but you have half of this. You have these two. So basically
Okay,
they have
so
see
how about the text on the screen? Are they big enough or too big or too small?
No, it's fine. Visible.
Perfectly fine.
Phone's worried that it's too small on your screen.
No, it's. I mean,
it
for
was
me,
small,
at
right?
least speaking, it's fine. I can send you a screenshot as well.
Okay, no, that's fine. Okay, now we move on. So how we can build such a REST API, and we will use Node.js for the server. We will use MongoDB for the database, and this is I just know about. So previously, if you want to test API, REST API, you need to either write some code to test it, or you can use the command called curl
Doesn't exist on Windows.
Okay, but yeah, whatever. You can use that command to send the request, and then you receive the response. But with Postman, you don't need to do that. They provide you an interface. You type in the URL, you type in the parameter, and then you get the result. So you can easily test with that Postman. Very useful.
I've seen, yeah.
Yeah. But of course, because we need to do testing, and then testing we need to write code. But if for like unit test or whatever, we can easily use Postman. Okay, getting started. So both of you know about Node.js and how to install it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I think skip that part. So SenseMap didn't follow the tutorial. How about Relay? Did you have time to follow it?
I'm able to do that, but not really.
Not really. Okay.
Not really, no.
So I don't know what I need to talk. Okay, I can spend time to explain the structure of this and the main step that you need to do. Actually, because I expect you spend some time to follow the tutorial and then ask me question on this section. Otherwise, it's not productive.
No, Fong, isn't this just a setup node on the server?
No. The tutorial is all about building a REST API. It's not about installation. Okay. Of course, I will skip the installation because you just go to the home page and download and install. Of course, I don't need to go through that. So basically, we will build a Node.js app.
Yeah. So maybe still going step by step because they haven't read anything of these at all. So.
Yeah, but they assume that you install, of course.
So firstly, like Node.js first, and I think we will need I don't know MongoDB we will need it or not, but we will need npm actually and Node.js installed on our own PCs, and then we can basically continue on this. Is that the?
You need to install both. Yeah, you need to install Node.js and Mongo. You really need both before you.
Accessing directly the Mongos of your server.
No, so I think for initial practicing, you can run the Mongo just on locally.
So let's say the goal of this, because you will be the developer of the backend, so you will need to host the MongoDB in your laptop, in your machine, and you need to hold the Node.js in your machine as well. And then when we deploy it later on some some real server, that is something else. But because of this for the development, then you need to install MongoDB and Node.js in your machine.
What do you think we will be all be dependent upon each other's machine? Like in a sense that, okay, I'll be doing it on my machine, but the other person will be doing it on its machine. So if in case you want to test something, you will definitely need my machine to be active in order to test it. So rather than doing that, maybe why not we just find somewhere like a MongoDB online and then just deploy it. I have the servers. I can check if it's possible to have it deployed over it and let everyone play in one playground rather than having each one. I mean, everyone have their own.
I agree with that.
Sorry?
Yeah, I agree with that.
So if you have a local server, if you just do local testing, you don't need to access someone else's laptop. Just your own one will be fine. But also it's good to have an online one so we can test with. But again, so that will be, as Feng said, will be a next stage. Once you get it working locally, and then try to put it onto the server.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so let's say assume that after you install Node.js and MongoDB, then so Node.js is, I think, like PHP, and we need a framework. So they provide, let's say, low-level API, and then usually, that's the way I do. We install Express.js, which is a web framework based on Node.js, and then we use Express.js.
But is it needed in this one?
Yeah, you need it in this one. You need it in this one.
Okay.
Let me find where I mentioned that. Server setup. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I will talk about it later. So let me see the structure.
Let's just go through the steps. So, okay, after install, and you make a directory called to-do list API. So you should be able to do that, right?
Yeah, let me see the structure. Okay, so this is if you see my screen now, this is the standard structure, or the structure that this tutorial proposed you. So, for example, you have a root directory. We are going to write an app called to-do list API, and then inside, but they create another folder called API, and they have 3 folders: controllers, models, and tools. And we explain the role of each of these folders later on, and the bucket JSON and the server.js. Server.js is the entry point of your app, and bucket JSON is similar to the manifest JSON file in the Chrome extension.
Does that make sense, or?
Yeah.
I think that, I think the goal of this meeting, because you didn't go through it yet, I just maybe we don't expect that you will understand everything I say, but just some rough idea, and so when you follow the tutorial, it makes it easier for you. So as I mentioned, we need to install Express, the web framework. So just install it, and then you don't really need this node, but it helps you. So usually when you change your code, and then when you want to test it, you need to stop the server and then you rerun it. But the node will constantly watch your folders, and when you make any changes, it will refresh the app, so that you don't need to stop the server and start the server. I mean the Node.js server. That is the.
Do you know what full means by app?
Sorry.
Do you know what full means by app?
Yeah.
So a Node.js project is an app.
Yeah.
So the REST API that we want to build is an app.
Yeah. So basically, that just means the API.
So I'm scrolling down to the package.json file. So as I said, it's similar to the manifest.json file in extension. So you have the name, the version, just some meta information. Okay.
So that's required by the node.
Yeah.
That's for the node setup. So just like a Chrome extensions, it needs a manifest JSON file. Yeah.
Yeah,
This-
so it will include some meta information about the author, about the keywords, but it also includes some more information like the dependency, like the node, like the manifest JSON. You need to include some JavaScript file, things like that. Okay, let's move on. So in this step, they explain to you the role of the server.js file. So as you see in the code here, so first you declare Express.js server and you tell, okay, I'm going to listen to this port. By default, it will be 3000 app listen port. And then when you run the Node.js server, what you will get is just a simple log. At the moment, after you copy and paste this code into the server.js, and how to run the app, how to run the Node.js app, this one, on the terminal, you run npm run start, and then what you get in the terminal. So you open the terminal, you go into this folder, and you run npm start, then you will receive this log back. Okay, that is the basic setup of a Node.js server. Do you have any question?
No. Not
Okay.
so.
So then we need to write the code inside the server.js file. So this is the basic app. Of course, we need to put more content there. Now the second step, they move to setting up a schema, which means the database. So MongoDB, we use MongoDB, and they use Mongoose. I think as in the normal database, you need the driver to communicate with the database, and Mongoose is one of them. And the schema, I think it's just similar to schema in database. Okay, if I scroll back to here, so you see the folder called models. So the model here means the schema in the database, where you declare the schema in the database. So for example, here they want to implement a to-do list. So their schema will be, for example, the name of the to-do, the name of the task, when it's created, the status of the task, is it pending or completed. So you specify the type of the field, the default value, something like that. So in the future, we will display our section here. So in a section will have an array of actions. Each action has a name, a time, whatever information. We display it here. Okay. So that's
So the action will be like a node in the history map. Something like that.
Yeah. So I think currently we have an array list of things, right? Of actions or whatever, and then we need to save that thing into the database. And here is how you can display how do you want to save that. It's
So
just like
that's
a schema or some schema in database.
Schema normally is like if I refer it may be like in SQL you write queries for create table actually, so that would be like a schema over here, I believe.
Yeah. It's like schema in relational database. You need the field and the type of the field.
Exactly.
Yeah, but because maybe the main difference between MongoDB and relational database is that MongoDB is a document-based database, so you can save the whole JSON object. So actually, previously I was using a different database driver called Monk, and actually they didn't ask me to describe the schema, and because you can basically save everything, you can save the whole object, so you don't really need to describe a schema. But as you see here, there are some advantage of doing some extra work. For example, you can say the required information. This needs to be the default value, or it needs to be one of these things. So you can do some further check with if you describe explicit schema. But anyway, just use Mongoose.
And we do
Now,
that for separate fields. For example, let's say if the user was supposed to register, like he would say first name, and we would create the field for that using this, right?
yes. So for example, if the schema is for to save the user profile,
information,
then the name will be like name or first name, or we had email here. Email, the time will be string, and require yes, for example, and something else that you just describe the fields that you need to save.
Okay, and these all will be saved in the one Mongo document, basically.
Yeah.
Whatever. Okay, all right, that's clear then.
Okay. Now, setting up the routes. Okay. So here you will define a different endpoints for your API, like get, or post, or blah blah blah. And if you scroll down, you will see another folder called root. This is where you describe those routes.
So these are the ones where you can actually insert data or save or delete files. Each one of them will be an entry point here. Yeah.
And just spend a bit time to read this file. Here it says that for the root task, and then if you want to get, it will return on a task. So to-do list is something that they import from the controller. So as you can guess, they will the actual implementation will be in the controller file. Here they just describe what will happen if you get from task. This means that the previous one is some URL provide, say for example, big data machine, last SenseMap, and task. Then you will get on the task. And if you want to post something, then it means that it will create a new task. And the code will be running is from the to-do list here. For example, I think it export a function called create a task here. That's how you can refer to this. And similarly, if you want to get a specific task, you can access it through this one. So this file is just skeleton, a structure that say what will happen. Something?
No, just so you can just type in a. So basically, what Feng just said defines interface, how the API or interface. So you can, let's say the server is on the. Can you see? Is that too small?
Yeah. If you could make it a little bit bigger, that would be useful. I think it's Control Plus, yeah.
So let's say this is our server. Okay, so here it defines task. So if someone taps /tasks and then /get, is that get or?
Yeah, but they don't do that. Get
okay.
it just
get to the
this
front.
one.
Yeah. Okay.
So let's say, for example, you're equal to this one. This is your URL, and then if somebody just do a request, okay, just like this one maybe. Then you will receive on the task. Or if you want to have a specific task, then you need to know the ID of the task and then some 123. With 123 is the ID of the task. I'm talking about this one.
Second one.
Yeah, the first line, the second one.
So the first URL, if you just type in your browser, it will return a list of tasks in the database. And that's based on the first routes it defines here. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you can specifically say which task you want. The second. So this double column here just means you've put a number.
The double column, the column here means something. Mean parameter.
Okay. Okay.
Just something after this.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you, because it's the get mean that you just run it. I mean you can just copy and paste it to to a browser. You can get it as well because it's a get request. And if you want to do the post, let's say if I want to create a new task, I assume that this is how I post. So it needs some information, right? For example, the name will be dog, and I don't know the author. This kind of thing. I assume that, and then you will see in the post, in the create task, they will need to get those parameters, and then they put it into the database. Okay, now move on to the controller to see.
Is there any question?
Yeah.
Or?
Yes, there is a question. So if we were to run put or post, basically, it would request it, but it would not insert it. Is that correct? This is just for retrieving. If I understand that correctly.
If you want to retrieve, then you do this kind of request, the get request. If you want to post, I think, for example,
is that correct?
Sorry?
So if you were to run something like post, it would actually insert to the...
Yeah, exactly. So basically, it depends on what you actually do in the controller.
So, okay, so if we go back one step, we say post and get, these are the methods defined by the HTTP protocol. It got nothing to do with the API or the server. All it does is defines way, your communication between client and server. So post is send some data from the client to the server, where get is the other way around. So the post would say, I just want to send this information to the server, and once server gets the information, it will decide what to do. And then that's defined by the API. The API might say, okay, that particular information is used to create a new task, and it will create a new one. And if it's to something else, maybe just say, I don't know, even can use that to delete something, you can just do that. No, delete is something else. Does that make sense? No?
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
Okay.
I think, as I said, it depends on what you really do in the controller. There's nothing to stop you when you implement the post, you implement the update inside the get. There's nothing stop you to do that. But it's just a convention that for these things, like get, post, put, delete, you need to if you want to delete, you implement that for the delete entry point. Now just go to the controller file to see how they implement this, so that you can have a better understanding.
Yeah.
So you can see here in this controller, we would be writing 5 different functions. Yeah, and then you need to export this function. Export means that you can refer to it outside, and that's how you can refer to it outside like that. You refer to that file, to-do list, and then you dot something. You can see you have 5 functions here, and these 5 functions will be implemented in the to-do list controller file. Okay, scrolling down, and this is what they mean by export. You need to do things like this. If you will see this should be familiar with the way I implemented in the Chrome extension as well. Very similar, because if you want to make this function public, you do something like that. It was module dot something equal to a function. You remember? Like in the provenance file, in the browser file, whatever file, I always do things like that. So if you want to export, you want to make this function public, you need to do things like that. And let's have a look at the first function to list on task. So, and this is the script you need to write to retrieve on a task. Task here is a model from Mongoose, which will refer to the let's say the table called task.
So that's the task in MongoDB.
You remember that you let me scroll up to see here. For example, here you define a schema, and then you. Sorry, yes again.
I'm saying you are just selecting the model, like you're just selecting it a table. Let's suppose that's you can say in simplest way.
Yeah, you can say here. Here you define a schema, and then you say that you want to export the schema and
it's called
to the task here. So the task here will be something that you can prefer later.
Yeah, and then later you are just selecting the model. I mean table actually.
Yeah. So now the model is already associated with this task. So you can get from this API task.find because you want to retrieve all of them, then you find nothing. So the first parameter will be the parameters you want to find, the keywords you want to find.
So that's part of the MongoDB's query. Yeah.
No, it's part of Mongoose, and then Mongoose will communicate with MongoDB.
But is this find the same command in MongoDB or it's different?
By chance, not by chance, but they use the same vocabulary.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And of course, you can go to MongoDB, you open the console, you can do very similar. A task here will be a table or the collection in the MongoDB vocabulary. The function, I think it makes sense that they try to make it the same so that it's easier. And the first parameter in this function is the keywords you need to find because you want to retrieve all of them, then it's an empty object. The second parameter is whatever it returns. The first parameter is an error, and the second parameter is the result. If error, you send the error. If not error, then you respond. So two parameters here is the request and the response. And the response is, I don't know, but you can guess that it will respond is to respond whatever returned by the Mongoose with a task here.
But why do you need request? Is that just required by the Mongoose?
Okay, good question. Why they don't use anything from the request? I think the request will, because you don't need any parameter, the request will refer to this URL.
Okay.
And because you don't retrieve and you don't use any parameter.
From okay.
You may see it later. I'm not sure, but yeah, let's see. Did you understand this function? Or you want to understand roughly how it works?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So let's move on to create a task. So obviously you want to get that table and insert a row with some information, right? And here, there you go. Now you accept the request, and request.body will be whatever return will be this one.
Yeah.
Roughly this. So you can save it. I think it will just say the whole thing from the body. But just roughly, I'm because as I just recently used Mongoose for the tutorial, so I don't really know the function, but it will get request body will be the information from the parameter. It uses information and save it into the database. And I guess similarly for the other thing, like if you want to update a task, Then Mongoose provide you a function called find one and update. And of course, you need to put the ID, the task ID. This is how Node.js refer to the parameter request.parameter.task ID. And this will be the task ID here. You can see two different ways. If you had a forward slash here, it will be request.param.something. And the other way is request.body. You need to
have to pass that afterwards, I think.
Yeah. But yeah, anyway, I just got some rough idea here. So for the delete, yeah, you just remove something from the table. Right, makes sense. Did you get some idea about these functions?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
All good.
Now putting everything together. So far we finished writing the controller. We finished writing the root, which is basically tell you for which endpoint, which function we need to take from the controller to respond to it. And here is how to define a schema, which is for the MongoDB thing. So now putting things together will be like this one. So if you remember before, previously for the console log, this is only the thing you have. You define the express server and you say I want to listen to this port here. And this is a new thing that you need to add. So first you need to import the Mongoose, of course. You need to import the model, and the body parser is to pass the parameter. You need that library as well. And here is that now Mongoose need to talk to database. You can see here. Yeah. So assume that you already started MongoDB. You install it and you start a MongoDB server. And then this thing is for the body parser. And then here is that you import the root. Yeah, more or less here. And then yeah, if you want to test it, you need to start MongoDB server using the MongoD command. And so you start MongoD. For MongoDB, you start the Node.js app for using npm run start. Yeah, and the reason it doesn't, if you don't have the node here, then you need to stop the app and then you rerun it so that it can take the new code into effect. But if you have the node running, then you don't need to stop and restart the Node.js app. Now how to test it. So Postman is a Chrome app. There's a link there that you can go there and install that app. App here I mean Chrome app, like Chrome extension. And when you run it, you will have this interface. And here is a URL. For example, when you test it, it will be localhost. This is the port that, because we listened to that port, if you remember the 3000 port there.
Yeah, we defined it in earlier.
Sorry?
Yeah, we defined to use that port earlier, I remember.
Okay, cool, good. And then on this drop down, you can choose the type of request you want, for example, GET. And yeah, what you expect is that you will retrieve all the tasks from the database, right? And because you haven't inserted anything, that's why when you put this, you click send, the response will be somewhere here. Yes, so let's say yeah, and then you can try a post. You click onto the body where you here you can see you can specify the key and value, which I'm the key and value for this. For example, here the name will be Here is the name and then the value of the name, or author, the value of the author. So you specify parameters in this table, and then you just send. Then you will insert that task into the database, and then you can go back to here, and then you run it again. You will retrieve the task. So to go through this one, they explain maybe better than me how to test it. You don't need to do the middleware thing here. Yeah, that's all.
Any questions?
Oops.
Not really, no. I need to get on with that before I can ask actually more questions.
Okay.
Yeah. It's, because you haven't gone through the tutorial, so this just to help you to manage your expectation when you actually following the tutorial.
That should be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if we want to, when you've done this one, and then you can drive some behavior for the new for the backend, and then you can see it very similar to follow this to implement the real SenseMap thing.
Yeah, it's just while we actually do this locally, we have to just get that set up, and then we actually once we finish that, I think we should go on with the server stuff to actually host it remotely and see if it works. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So we get a prototype just running locally, and then see how we go from there. Okay.
Yeah. Just start with local development, and as a link that SenseMap sent, you have some I think like Heroku, they have some Node.js service that allow you to host a database for half a gig for free, something like that. But that's later.
Yeah, you can do that. Actually, there are two ways that you can. In fact, I can share you one more thing. I've personally played with both of them, so they are pretty fine. There's one server called as like a Heroku actually. So what you can do it is you can do right now is firstly learn a bit about Node. Actually, Node and Expression was mostly like expression engine. So that's you were building on top of Node actually, just like. And then after that, you can install MongoDB at your own place. Once you have played around with it, then you can just basically go to this second last link, MLab, register yourself, and it allows you to create a sandbox. So that means you have 0.5 GB actually for free. And then you just basically, rather than communicating it with your own MongoDB, you just communicate with their actually server. And I'm sure they must have any sort of like documentations for it on how to set up. And once you're done, if you want, you can deploy your app over Heroku. They also provide you for free, and that's how you can just like play around with both of them. I've actually experimented both of the stuff previously, so I know a bit about it. But definitely, it would be worth a shot to basically like revise actually.
I see. It looks great. Is that a sponsored message?
Sorry?
Is that a sponsored message?
Which one?
Sponsored master.
No, I think you just say Skype automatically put a picture there.
Actually representing Heroku or
His sponsor for his master.
That's just a small joke. But yeah, it looks interesting. I'll definitely look into that too.
You just need to just like find resources free first to learn before you pay something.
Yeah, sure. It actually looks interesting. Yeah, I'll look into that. Thank you for that.
Yeah, but by the way, I think it leave it later. Just finish the local development, because at the same time also here we also have a server that you can install. You can have an actual server.
Yeah.
When you do it actually locally first time, me as a developer gets pretty excited to first deploy it online actually. So that's the reason I was finding like, is there any way we can deploy Node apps for free? So then I found Heroku is one of them. And I've played a lot with it. It's a pretty nice server.
Yeah.